Hello, reporter room investigators. Come on in, come on in. Tell me where you're from. Happy Sunday to you and to yours. Today we have a lot to talk about. I'm hoping I can get through everything. I have 10 packages. We're going to be discussing the motion by the prosecution that is claiming that the is hiding its tests and evaluations that were conducted on Bryan Kohberger related to his autism diagnosis, the latest addition to the defense team, the latest addition to the prosecution team, the claims that there are no connections between Bryan Kohberger and the victims. Is this true? The roommates, Dylan and Bethany. Geofencing, will this exonerate Bryan Kohberger? Could this implicate Bryan Kohberger? And then let's talk about the defense expert, Cy Ray. And if we have time, we'll go through some more of the circumstantial evidence. But let's go ahead and get started. Come on in. Tell me where you're from. My name is Jessica Davies. I'm an investigative journalist, and my job is to investigate crimes, crime scenes, and potential suspects, and share with you how to do the same thing. If you have not subscribed to Reporter Room, please do. It's free, and it helps me out a lot. Like, share, leave a comment, and know that everything I'm sharing with you is my opinion. So come on in, tell me where you're from, and remember that Bryan Kohberger is innocent until proven guilty. I do want to say a special thank you to our subscribers, to our channel members, and to our mods. And Christine is here. Happy Sunday to you. Here's our head mod. And Jazz is in the house. Michelle is here. Come on in, guys. Tell me where you're from. Joey, I hope you had a wonderful birthday yesterday. Happy birthday again. Brother Mike is here. And he is our other head mod. Hi, Mary. Great to see you. The Jewel is here. Tony's here. We're going to have an awesome discussion. We have a lot of great people in the chat. Kathleen is in the house. Jet Set's here. So come on in. Tell me where you're from. And please give this a thumbs up and let YouTube know that we're doing a G-rated show. Vamp Girl is here. Logged in from Chicago. Welcome. All right. Well, you guys know I like to get started. So let's get started. So we have the Idaho former U.S. attorney joined the prosecution team, and we're going to be talking about Cy Ray, and we're going to be talking about some new additions to the defense team. But let's start with this. Let me put this up. Okay. And let me move myself over here. There. Okay. So the prosecution has a new member of their team. They got former United States Attorney for Idaho, Joshua Hurwitz. Now he's going to be representing the state of Idaho against Bryan Kohberger. He will serve as a special deputy prosecuting attorney for Latah County. And this is my receipts. This is the latest court filing. And Bill Thompson is still the lead prosecutor. And then Joshua's been added as special deputy prosecuting attorney. He attended Harvard. Let me tell you a little bit about him. Grab this one. Okay, so this is his picture here. You can see him in the corner of your screen. He is an American lawyer. He served as a United States attorney for the District of Idaho right up through till he took this job. He got his bachelor's degree at Stanford University and a Juris Doctorate, so that's his law degree, from Harvard Law School. So he's got excellent pedigree, and I think he'll be a great addition to the team. Now, the defense team, they've also added someone, so let me grab that one next. Make sure I'm not in the way. Let's move myself over here. Okay. So they have enlisted a Spokane-based forensics expert. Now, he's going to dispute evidence use. And new developments have emerged in the legal proceedings against Bryan Kohberger as filings reveal the defense strategy and expert witnesses, a Spokane-based digital forensic expert is assisting BK's defense team. They are challenging the prosecutor's motion to use text messages from the night of the crime, so I'm watching my words here, as evidence. This expert is part of the defense efforts to counter the prosecution's claims. Additionally, 6 expert witnesses have been identified to testify at BK's trial, and there is a hearing coming up this week on April 9th, and I will be going live at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And I hope you want to come and join me and watch it together. So please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss. I might go live a little bit earlier than that. But additionally, 6 expert witnesses have been identified to testify at BK's trial. These include specialists in forensic science and psychology who are expected to provide testimony that could impact the case's outcome. While the defense has filed several pages of detailed information about these experts, these documents are sealed. And as the result, the public cannot access specific details regarding the experts and their testimony. The involvement of these experts highlights the complexity of the case and the defense's approach in preparing for the upcoming trial. And the defense team is not the only ones filing motions, because the prosecution, this happened. Okay, so this was filed by, let's see, Joshua Hurwitz. So one of his first acts as the special deputy on the prosecution team was to he's requesting a state's first supplemental request for discovery disclosure. So they're claiming that the defense team is hiding things from the prosecution. It says, please take notice that the undersigned, pursuant to Rule 16C of the Idaho Criminal Rules and Idaho Code 18207, request discovery and inspection of the information, data, and materials listed in the attached sealed Exhibit S1. So that is sealed. I can't see that part of it. This is a continuing request. So it doesn't sound like this is the first time that they've been requesting this. The prosecution's been requesting this from the defense. This is a continuing request pursuant to Idaho Criminal Rule 16J. And Bryan Kohberger is innocent until proven guilty. He is presumed innocent in the court of law here in the United States. While this first supplemental request applies to all of the defendant's expert witnesses, the specific basis for this request is that the defendant's disclosure of the reports of the forensic psychiatric evaluation by Dr. Eileen Ryan and neuropsychologist evaluation by Rachel Orr appear to be incomplete. So it sounds like they are going to be challenging this diagnosis of autism. Remember, the prosecution didn't want to have one of their experts examine Bryan Kohberger, but they did want an independent expert to examine him to see if he really, had these diagnoses of OCD and autism. And you can understand why. It's a capital case. And you can find an expert, in my opinion, to testify to almost anything if you pay them. So the prosecution doesn't want their person to examine him, but they said, how about an independent person? And the defense said no. So this is what the prosecution is claiming. Now, remember, just because the defense or the prosecution claims something doesn't make it true. But I expect that we're going to learn more about this during the hearing, which is happening this week on April the 9th. And I'm going to be going live. So come watch it with me. So what they're saying is that they want more information. They want the reports of the forensic psychiatric evaluation by Dr. Eileen Ryan and neurophysiological evaluation by Rachel Orr, because it appears, this is according to the prosecution, to be incomplete. They continue, the reports do not appear to be accompanied by the results and tests conducted as part of the examination. I would think that would be something that the judge would want to see as well, especially if we're talking about something as important as capital punishment. I would think the defense would want to provide this, right? The reports do not appear to be accompanied by all the results and tests conducted as part of the examination. Idaho Criminal R 16C2 and quote, the facts and data for the opinions contained in the reports Idaho Crim R 16C4. As such, they do not afford the state a complete opportunity to consider the substance of such testimony and prepare for rebuttal. So now we've had Ann Taylor making all kinds of claims that the prosecution was withholding evidence. This is one of the first times I've seen the prosecution say that the defense is withholding evidence. So here we are. So what they're saying is they don't see, they want the tests. Where are the tests that were conducted? Where's the data that you use to form the opinions? And, capital punishment is on the table. So I would think that Ann Taylor would want to provide this because maybe she could negotiate something with the prosecution to take it off the table. And that is a win for Bryan Kohberger, in my opinion. But the state is saying that they want a complete opportunity to consider the substance of such testimony and prepare for rebuttal through its own experts. Idaho Code IC 18-207, according to the state, requests that defendant immediately produce the underlying data, evaluation, and examination results as outlined in sealed Exhibit S1. Now, obviously, we can't see Exhibit S1 because it's sealed, but I think we're going to find out more about this at the hearing. I think we're going to hear a lot about this, and I think we're going to hear a lot about Cy Ray at the hearing. So we're going to talk about Cy Ray, and we're going to talk about Dylan and Bethany in just a moment. So please stay with me. We're going to be talking about BK's connections to the victims, and we're going to go through circumstantial evidence that we know about so far. So we have a lot of stuff to unpack. And I've seen in the comment section this week, too, that a lot of people are saying that both the defense and prosecution have said there are not any connections between the victims. This is not correct. The defense team, Ann Taylor, claimed that there were no connections between the victims. The prosecution has never claimed this. They said there was no stalking. And this is because the stalking statute in Idaho is so narrow. The victims have to feel threatened by the person that's stalking them or afraid. So I don't believe in this case that Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Xana probably really knew who BK was. They may have encountered him at the Mad Greek or maybe seen him around the University of Idaho, but I doubt they could have told you his name, let alone that he was stalking them. So they have to feel harassed or threatened for it to be considered stalking, which is what the prosecution was talking about. But I do believe, in my opinion, that Bryan Kohberger was surveilling these victims, and there are connections between the victims, and we're going to talk about that. I'll show you more proof on that in just a second. And then we have the DNA. Let's just talk about a couple of the connections, and then we're going to go into Cy Ray next. So we have the DNA that was found on the knife sheath underneath and to the side of Maddie. That's a connection. The DNA that was found under Maddie's fingernail clippings. That's another connection. Now, the defense team does not want this in to be the jury to see this. And if it's good for the defense team, they want it to come in. They're not going to file a motion to suppress this. If it's bad for the defense team, then they are going to file a motion to suppress this. So what do you think the defense team did related to Maddie's fingernails? They filed a motion to suppress it. So it's not good for Bryan Kohberger. Whatever that likelihood ratio is not a good number for Bryan Kohberger. A good number for Bryan Kohberger would be 0. There is 0 likelihood ratio that his DNA matches the third person. That was, so the judge is going to decide on this. We're going to find out a lot on April 9th and probably in the day or two right after. So I've scheduled April 9th for the hearing, and then I'm going to go live. I have it put for 2 days after, but I may go live the day after. It just depends on how fast the judge comes back with his rulings. But we're going to hear a lot of arguing for this hearing, and we're going to get a sense of where the judge is, because he pushes back. He will push back against prosecution and defense teams if he feels like they're blowing smoke. So if the DNA underneath Maddie's fingernails shows a likelihood ratio of 0%, that would help Bryan Kohberger. I don't think it's 0%. Otherwise, Ann Taylor would let it in. She would want it to come in. So, and remember, Ann Taylor made the claim of no connection between the victims back in June of 2023. So almost 2 years ago. just a month and a few weeks short of 2 years ago. She was trying to get the IgG DNA thrown out. She lost that motion with both the Latah County Judge John Judge, and also the Ada County Judge. We call him Judge Hip. And the same, I know that's not his full name. At the same time, Ann Taylor is claiming this, though, that there's no connection back in June of 2022. She's also admitting that the defense team had not reviewed large amounts of discovery. She claimed this, and then since then, a massive amount of additional discovery, including 14 supplemental requests from the defense team. That's 14 requests for new information that was all turned over to her. So again, on November 13th of 2024, the defense stated again, they were still processing discovery. So just because Ann Taylor didn't see any connections between BK and the victims does not mean they don't exist. They do exist. We've all seen the warrants now for Bryan Kohberger, including the Google warrant, the AT&T warrant, the Apple warrant, the email accounts, the videos, 10 plus videos of this Hyundai Elantra. We're going to talk about Ray, Dylan, and Bethany in just a second. 10 videos of the Hyundai Elantra going to, circling around, and leaving from the crime scene. And then Ann Taylor tells us through her motion that there's 12 hours of raw footage, and she doesn't have time to review it. She doesn't have time to go through 12 hours of raw footage, and therefore she wants the videos. She said all this evidence should be excluded. The videos should be excluded. I don't think that dog is going to hunt, because can you imagine if you were a victim of a crime and all the defense had to say was, we don't have time to review all this information, and the judge says, oh, okay, you don't have time to review the evidence? Nope, judge, I'm the defense attorney. I don't have time to review the evidence. Oh, well, sure. You know what? We won't have that evidence at the trial. Again, I think, it's a good try, but I don't think that dog is going to hunt. I don't think this is a precedent that this judge or any judge is going to want to set, because in my opinion, it borders on ridiculous. Many of the search warrants were initiated after no connection claim was made by defense attorney Ann Taylor. We know information has continued to be returned and that the defense is continuing to go through things. We saw all the motions and filings to suppress the evidence. So in Ann Taylor, there is evidence for people who were claiming there was no evidence. She filed 12 motions to suppress evidence. So the no connections victims claim that was made by Ann Taylor might have been true, that she believed that at the time back in 2023, in the summer of 2023, but it's not true today. We now know that BK had 12 cell phone pings, but now we're hearing it might be 23 visits to the 1122 King Road house. We know he was spotted by multiple witnesses at the student union at the University of Idaho. BK did not go to the University of Idaho. He did not attend the University of Idaho. He didn't work at the University of Idaho. He went to Washington State University, where he was a teaching assistant pursuing a PhD. So why was he hanging out at the University of Idaho in their student union inside their cafeteria sipping water? This is what witnesses say. We also know that law enforcement pulled Tinder warrants for Bryan Kohberger, for Maddie, and for Kaylee. So I'm wondering if there is going to be some connections there where he was trying to get a date. We know also that BK was following Maddie and Kaylee on Instagram. This is according to Dateline NBC. And according to Steve and Christy Goncalves, he was liking all of Maddie's photographs. We also know that Ann Taylor filed the motion to keep the van's shoe print that was found outside Dylan's door. She wanted that suppressed. She did not want the jury to see it. And again, if it's good for the defense, she would want the jury to see it. So what Ann Taylor didn't say, in my opinion, was more interesting than what she did say. Her reason that she wanted the footprint suppressed was because it wasn't going in the same direction as what Dylan said that she saw the perpetrator going. And the judge denied her motion. But what Ann Taylor didn't say is very, very interesting. She didn't say that the footprint did not match Bryan Kohberger. She didn't say it didn't match his shoe size. She did not say that he never owned a Vans shoe and Van's shoe has a very distinct diamond pattern on it. So I think, and the judge dismissed her motion to suppress the Van shoe evidence. So I don't think that the Van shoe print exonerates Bryan Kohberger. So I think it's very, very interesting. We know from the New York Times that law enforcement was looking for previous owners of Kaylee's car as well as 19 Tinder accounts. Also put out a warrant for Bryan Kohberger's Tinder account. Moreover, we know that law enforcement kept Kaylee's Apple laptop and Apple Watch. Steve Goncalves was wondering why he couldn't get these things back. And I believe it's because Kaylee's Bluetooth is going to show a handshake geofencing between Bryan Kohberger's cell phone and Kaylee's Bluetooth. I believe that he was coming up and sitting in the back parking lot looking into the windows, but I think he was doing more than that. I think he may have been accessing, because remember what he was applying for with a job with the Pullman County police was to teach them how to use technology to solve crime. So the idea that he could be hacking or blue snarfing and accessing photos of the victims or accessing their online activity isn't that much of a reach. But I think at the very least, even if he wasn't accessing it, Kaylee's Bluetooth would have offered his phone a handshake. And whether or not, when you go into a cafeteria or you go into the hospital or you go into a coffee shop and they offer to let you use their Wi-Fi, whether you accept it or not, their server and your cell phone both record a handshake that the offer was made. And then we have heard that there were photographs that BK had on his cell phone. Now, were these social media photographs? Were these, Jodi Arias style? Were these photographs that Bryan Kohberger took himself? Remember, Jodi Arias accidentally photographed herself doing away with Travis Alexander. And I just want to remind everybody who's like going after Dylan and Bethany that Travis Alexander also had roommates. Travis Alexander lay on that bathroom floor after Jodi Arias did away with him, not for hours, for days. And his roommates did not report him missing. It was Travis Alexander's friends that came over looking for him because he wasn't answering his phone that found him and called 911. And we know his roommates didn't have anything to do with it because Jodi Arias did it. We all know Jodi Arias did it. She went to his funeral and she cried. She claimed she didn't do it. She seemed really nice, but she did do it. So let's hop into the next. I want to talk about Cy-Ray. All right. Make sure we're all looking at the same thing. We're going to talk about Cy-Ray. He is going to be a very important defense expert. He normally testifies for the prosecution, which is what makes this so interesting. And so I'm, very curious what he's going to say. Now, the prosecution, they do not want Cy-Ray to be able to provide Bryan Kohberger with an alibi. And I believe we're going to find out more about this at the hearing on the 9th. What's today? The 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. So it'll be today, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So Wednesday at 10:30, I'm going live with the hearing. I might go live a little bit earlier too. We might do a little bit of a pre-show if anything new comes up between now and then. But Cy-Ray, the prosecution doesn't want him to be able to take the stand. What they're saying is that they don't think that he can't provide a full alibi. He can only provide a partial alibi. So where did they get this from, this partial alibi? Well, Ann Taylor put that in when she presented him as an expert, she put in that he was going to be able to provide a, quote, partial alibi. So the prosecution is saying that this isn't a true alibi. If Bryan Kohberger really wants to provide an alibi, then he needs to take the stand. And of course, the prosecution would love for him to get on the stand. We all saw what happened at the Alex Murdaugh trial when Alex Murdaugh tried to get on the stand. We're already hearing from Ann Taylor that she's worried Bryan Kohberger's affect won't be right, that he won't have the right facial expressions. She's worried he's going to come off as being kind of creepy and staring. And those aren't her words. That's me paraphrasing. But, she's not going to put him on the stand, in my opinion. So the prosecution's trying to force it. Now, I don't get to decide. You guys don't get to decide. Ann Taylor doesn't get to decide. The the prosecution, Bill Thompson, doesn't get to decide. The judge will decide what Cy Ray can testify to. But I still believe, irregardless, that Cy Ray will take the stand. So let's talk about him. Let me check in with chat and just say hello to everybody. This is interactive. Come on in. Tell me where you're from. Michelle says, thanks for being head mod to NJAS and for gifting memberships. I see you. Aw. Michelle says, before it gets busy, I just want to take a moment to recognize what a fantastic community that's built here. Full of kind and super intelligent and my favorite channel. Wow, thanks, Michelle. And NJAS is one of our head mods. NJAS, she says, thank you, Michelle. We all love it here too. Oh, thanks, NJAS. I really appreciate that. And you're welcome, Joey. I hope you had a really great birthday. Joey had a birthday we celebrated in the top chat yesterday. Joey says, NJAS, you think Bryan Kohberger did this crime or someone else framed him? NJAS says, as of yesterday, he is innocent right now until or if he is found guilty in a court of law. However, there seems to be a lot of evidence against him. This is our other head mod. This is Brother Mike. Mary is here. Let me see. I just want to see if we can get, Susan came in, Florence. Jet said, I want to come on in, tell me where you're from, and then share your comments. Adrienne is here from Florida. Sue Joy's from New Jersey. Welcome. Las Vegas girl, I know you're from Las Vegas. Brother Mike, thank you so much for the $1.99 super sticker. I really, really appreciate that. And the computers finally went on sale this week, so I am ordering. Welcome, Heather. Heather is a brand new Reporter Room channel membership. And oh my gosh, wow. NJAS gifted 5 Reporter Room memberships. Wow, that's so nice of you. NJAS, wow, you guys. Thank you so much. That is so nice of you. Thank you. Wow. I think that's the most we've ever had is 5. So that's really, really nice. Hi, Veronica. Great to see you. Yeah, please give this a thumbs up on your way in. Dabs, thank you so much for modding. Barbara was the winner of our giveaway. Billy is here. Good to see you. Merle's mom is here. Hi, Micro. Thank you so much for modding. Hi, Sherry. Let's see. All right, let's go ahead and dig into this. Dynamite's here. I'm just looking to see if there's anybody that Veronica says, is it 10:30 a.m. for the hearing Eastern time or Idaho? I'm going live 10:30 a.m. Thank you for having me clarify this, Veronica. I'm going live on Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. So no, the hearing I think starts earlier than that. I don't have it right in front of me, but I'm going live. I may go live at 10. I might go a little early. Hey, Kathy. So go ahead and subscribe and hit the notification bell. Oh, Mike is here. Hey, Mike. Happy Sunday to you too. Hi, Jody. Thanks for modding today, Mike and Jody. Eve says, hi, all. Why did the defense take on Hurwitz? What is his role in this case from now on? Is Jennings leaving? I missed that. The prosecution is the one that took on Hurwitz. And he's coming in as a special deputy. And no, Ashley Jennings is not leaving. They're just adding. I think there's just a lot to go through. There's just a lot of stuff to go through, and I think they needed help. And from the Josh's point of view, in my opinion, this would be if you were looking to jump from, having a public office and serving as part of the public, and you were looking to maybe run for public office or have it be a stepping stone into a private career, this would be a good case to be on, right? Because it's going to give you a lot of exposure. If you want to do any type of law practice, you're going to get lots and lots of exposure from this. So I think it's a good stepping stone for him, in my opinion. It's a little bit of a step back, but ultimately it's probably going to propel him in the direction that he wants to go. And, sometimes we all have to do that to get where we're going, right? Adriana says, we're looking at hurricane season soon. No perfect place. No, ma'am. And all of the tornadoes and everything that have been going on, all the flooding. Jules said his obsession with women, the brutality of his crime, not autism. Thank you. Yes. And just to be clear, people with autism are no more likely to commit a crime like this than someone who's considered to be neurotypical. So I just want to put that out there. And then Jill said, and John's exactly, autism have bouts of anger, but not like this. No, absolutely not. But you could have autism and still be sociopathic. Just because you have one doesn't rule out the other one. But I think it's really interesting that the defense didn't turn over. Tell me what you think about the significance of this. Why wouldn't you, if you want to introduce this, why wouldn't you turn over all the reports and all the disclosure about this autism diagnosis and OCD diagnosis? Wouldn't this just help you maybe get the prosecution to cooperate in taking capital punishment off the table? I'm not clear on why she didn't disclose that, but we're definitely going to find out more on Wednesday. Barbara Young agrees. Mike says there is a connection. Dynamite says, just want to say hello to everyone here. Hope you're having a great day. Happy Saturday or Sunday to you. Happy Saturday. Mountain Guy is here. Mountain Guy says, I don't have patience. Oh, well, I just want to, really make it clear that we are welcoming all opinions. You don't have to agree with each other. Please just keep it classy in the chat. Express your opinion. I want everybody to feel comfortable because Reporter Room is a critical thinkers channel. And what I'm trying to do is bring you guys all of the information so you guys can make up your own mind. So if you're the kind of person that likes to have all of it, not just, half of it or, one side or the other side, but you want all of the information, then this is the right channel for you. If you're a critical thinker, our viewers are highly intelligent, critical thinkers. If that fits you, then you're in the right place. Yeah, the stalking law is not very good. I agree with you, Mike. I agree with you. All right, so let's continue on together, shall we? Let's talk about Cy Ray. Because I think this is going to be, I think he's a really important part of, now he is a retired police officer and he is a current true crime podcaster. So he's, does kind of what I do, I guess, except for instead of doing it from a journalistic point of view, he's doing this as a former police officer and he has a lot of, he founded a corporation called ZX Corporation. Now, so he's going to try to prove BK's moon. I was gazing at the moon and the stars alibi. If the prosecution lets him, if the judge agrees. Now, the prosecution is saying they don't think a partial alibi meets the standards for Idaho law. I already showed you the law during our last live stream. If you haven't seen that, when you're done watching this, go over and watch that live stream next. I'm not going to rehash it today, but this is Cy Ray. He's a expert. He founded ZX Corporation, which provides tools for analytical mapping. He started it in 2014 and then sold the company to LexisNexis in 2021. He lives on a ranch in Arizona. He hosts a socialite crime club podcast. So he obviously likes true crime. According to his CV or resume, Cy Ray has 20 years of experience in law enforcement, including 13 years in criminal investigations and 18 years in SWAT tactical operations. He lists development of training courses and tactical training units in cellular tracking and operations experience. So he has experience, according to his resume, tracking cellular data. So he is going to try to poke holes in the prosecution's claim of phone pings, that BK's phone was pinging at the 1122 King Road house. Now, he has provided expert testimony and court consultations in Utah, Montana, Arizona, Colorado, New York, California, Florida, and Texas. And according to Newsweek, Cy Ray's testimony about cell phone movements helped convict Danielle Wood in 2021 of doing away with her boyfriend back in 2018. So the trial was in 2021. She did away with him in 2018 in Montana. It's not clear if Ray still uses the technology that his former company used, although he apparently testifies in cases that involve its use. That technology, Trax, was barred. Oh, okay. That technology, Trax, was barred from a Colorado courtroom last year after a judge heard testimony from law enforcement and others who found the technology lacking. Now, to be clear, just because the technology is lacking doesn't mean Cy Ray is lacking. He ruled that the company's flashy maps, these are the judge's words, hid a sea of unreliability, again, that the jury won't see. This is according to the Colorado Springs Gazette reporting. District Judge Juan Villasenor ruling was specific to ZetX and its track technology and did not include any other cellular tracking company. So to be clear, he's not impugning Cy-Ray's credibility. He wasn't impugning Cy-Ray's expertise. He was impugning the technology for ZetX. I don't know if that's even being presented at this trial. In some, tracks and its methods have been routine. This is the judge wrote in his ruling. In some, tracks and its methods have been routinely and sharply admonished by the scientific and legal community, and people haven't directed the court to any evidence showing otherwise. He also said that Ray, who claimed track maps were 94% to 96% accurate, was not a credible witness. Oh, well, there it is. Okay. So I guess he was going after Cy-Ray. Wow. He said, this is the judge writing this. This is not me writing this. This is the judge. He said he inflated his credentials, inaccurately claiming to be an engineer. This is what the judge wrote, saying that Ray had testified that he is, quote, more of an engineer than an engineer. As noted, his sole academic degree is an associate's degree. So that's a 2-year degree versus like a 4-year degree, which is a bachelor's degree. A master's usually takes 6 to 7 years, and a PhD takes usually another year to 2 years beyond that, depending on how fast you're going through this. But he said, as noted, his sole academic degree is an AA degree, so a 2-year degree. There's no evidence that it related to engineering, nor is there evidence that Ray's taken any engineering classes. This is what the judge wrote. To be sure, he created a booming business and has successfully pitched tracks to several law enforcement agencies, but a sound business model does not equal an accurate error rate. Now, Ann Taylor listed Cy-Ray as her expert witness when she filed the notice. So this was a while ago. It says last week, but that's not. This is an older article that provided an alibi to BK's whereabouts on November 13th of 2022 when Xana, Maddie, Ethan, and Kaylee were done away with. So this is her filing. And this was filed on May 17th of 2024. And she says, make sure we're all looking at the same thing. She says that, comes now, we know this is the defense. I remember, just because the prosecution says it doesn't mean it's true. Just because the defense says it doesn't true. Ultimately, it's up to the jury to decide. But she says Mr. Kohberger moved to Pullman, Washington in June of 2022. As an avid runner and hiker, he explored many areas of Palouse. And that's where I think the Strava app is going to come into play, because he did use that app, and that tracks your movements better than GPS, because GPS only works in your car. Strava follows you wherever you carry your cell phone. So as of note, he explored the Wah Park in July of 2022, and this became a favorite location. After the school year began, Mr. Kohberger was busy with classes and work at Washington State University, and his running and hiking decreased, but did not stop. Instead, his nighttime drives increased. Wonder why. This is supported by data from Mr. Kohberger showing him in the countryside late at night or in the early morning on several occasions. The phone data includes numerous photographs taken on several different late evenings and early mornings, including in November, depicting the night sky. Mr. Kohberger was out driving in the early hours of November 13th of 2022, as he often did, to hike and run and or see the moon and stars. So he drove throughout the area of south of Pullman, Washington, west of Moscow, Idaho, including the Wah Park. But the park would have been closed at the time of this crime. And here's the problem that the prosecution's kind of linking onto, is that even Ann Taylor is saying this is only going to be a partial corroboration. It's not going to corroborate his alibi. So therefore, the prosecution is saying this does not fit they're saying to the judge, this does not fit the legal definition of an alibi. Therefore, if Bryan Kohberger wants to establish an alibi, then he needs to get on the stand to do it. And that is what Idaho's law says. But the judge gets to decide. He has discretion to decide. This is a capital case. So I honestly don't know. We'll get some hints on the 9th of how the judge is going to decide, I think, by the questions that he asks. It's going to be a very interesting. So anyway, because the prosecution, one of their motions is they don't want Cy to be able to provide any part of an alibi. But he could still take the stand. But he says Mr. Kohberger intends to offer testimony of Cy CSLI expert, cell tower, cell phone, and other radio frequency. Curricular vitae is attached to show that Bryan Kohberger's mobile device was south of Pullman, Washington, and west of Moscow, Idaho, on November 13th of 2022, that Bryan Kohberger's mobile device did not travel east on the Pullman, Washington highway in the early morning hours of November 13th, and thus could not be the vehicle captured on video along the Moscow Pullman highway near Floyd's medical, use shop. Additional information as to Mr. Kohberger's whereabouts as the early morning hours progressed include additional analysis by Mr. Ray will be provided once the state provides discovery, and now subject to upcoming motion to compel. If not disclosed, Mr. Ray's testimony will also reveal the critical exculpatory evidence further corroborating Mr. Kohberger's alibi was either not preserved or has been withheld. So she's saying that his alibi was withheld. And then she gives his curriculum vitae, which is that his work history, that he worked with Burning Mountains Productions. That's his true crime club from 2023 to present. So he is a podcaster. His LexisNexis Special Service Inc. is 2021 to 2023. ZX Inc. 2013 to 2021. So he sold ZX to LexisNexis, and it looks like he stayed on for a little bit longer. And while they were bringing it, he worked for the Gilbert Police Department in Gilbert, Arizona from 1999 to 2014. He worked for the Phoenix Training Council 2006 to 2013 as an owner trainer. He worked for the Show Low Police Department in Arizona from 1996 to 1999. And then he has Military Professional Resources, Inc. as a training mentor for Afghanistan for June through December of 2010. So his applicable experience is 20 years of law enforcement, 5 years of patrol operations, 13 years of criminal investigations, and then she breaks it down, 7 years in violent crime, medication investigations, watching my words here, 3 years as detective sergeant in V crimes investigations, 2 years on the criminal apprehension team, 1 year undercover operations in Afghanistan, 8 years SWAT, tactical operations experience, 7 years instructor operator of law enforcement training company. And I'm wondering if that is going to be the ZX. 10 years of expert witness case consultants experience for ZX, testified over 100 times state and federal cases. All work prior to 11/23 was as a prosecution witness, advised peer review of over 2,000 criminal investigations. Now I'm wondering now. So after November of 2023, that's when he started to do defense. And then it talks about all of his certifications, which I'm not going to read it all to you, but definitely worth a look. My sourcing on this is Crime Online. If you would like to access it, the article is titled "Retired Cop and True Crime Podcaster Set to Prove BK's Moon and Stars Alibi." And then attached with this is Ann Taylor's motion. So you can access all of that if you would like to. Let's go. Let me pull up the next thing. All right.
And they don't have to.
Okay. Let me back this up a little bit. All right. Okay, so we're going to talk about the roommates, Dylan and Bethany, in just a few minutes. So please stay with me. But we're going to talk about the evidence that we know about so far, because this is going to be a circumstantial case. So that means that we don't have an eyewitness that literally saw him committing the crime. That's really rare to have that. So most cases like this are circumstantial. Um, and so what do we have so far? Well, we know that there was DNA that matched BK's buccal cheek swab in the octillion range. It's not million, which is 1, billion, which is 2. Octillion is 8. So we know that his DNA was on the knife sheath found underneath and to the side of Maddie, and that it did trace back to Bryan Kohberger. 2, we know Bryan Kohberger bought a K-bar knife on Amazon in the March of 2022. He also purchased a K-bar knife sheath. He also purchased a knife sharpener. When law enforcement served their search warrants, these items were not there. So where the jury's going to want to know, where is your knife? Where is your knife sheath? And then to make it worse, 3, Bryan Kohberger went back to Amazon after the crimes were committed to search for another knife and another knife sheath. And the jury's going to want to know what happened to your sheath? What happened to your knife? In my opinion, they're going to want to know this. There are 12 hours of raw CCTV and business camera footage, doorbell camera footage of the white Hyundai Elantra captured going to, circling around, and leaving from the 1122 King Road home. BK owned a white Hyundai Elantra, and the car that was circling and seen going to and from was missing a front plate. And BK had a car that was missing its front plate. So I think there's going to be more than that that links it to the Hyundai Elantra, just based on the fact that Ann Taylor's trying to get the all the video footage, the 12 hours of raw footage that the prosecution handed over to her, that she doesn't have time to go through it, and therefore it should be thrown out. I don't think that's going to happen. Um, I mean, just imagine the precedent that would set. Somebody gets assaulted. Well, I don't, it's on camera. I don't have time to look at it, Your Honor. I'm a criminal defense attorney. I'm really busy with a lot of other stuff. So, and the judge just says, "Oh, okay. Well, we won't show the video then." I don't think that's going to happen. I think that the video evidence is going to come in. 5, we know BK was out driving around that night. He wasn't at home in bed. He wasn't in his room. He was out in the night. He claims that he was gazing at the stars and the moon with ice fog and low-lying clouds. It was a cloudy night and there was ice fog that night. So I think that's a problem. I think Ann Taylor had to put him in the car, though, because it's his car. She said it during the hearing. She slipped up and she said it was his car. So, and I have that entire hearing streamed. You can watch the whole hearing and listen for yourself. It's in my playlist. 6, Bryan Kohberger turned off his cell phone right during the time of the crimes. And then there's cell phone pinging again at the house at 9 a.m. the morning of the crimes. Why was he there? Did someone realize he didn't have his knife sheath? Or was somebody looking to see what kind of circus he had created? Was he looking to see if 911, was he expecting to see police cars there? Mayhem? What was he expecting? I think that maybe how that shoe print got left outside Dylan's door could be because somebody went back inside. He is presumed innocent. He's innocent until proven guilty, but could be. If I were the prosecution, that would be the argument I would make, that somebody left their knife sheath and maybe went in and took a quick look around to see if he could find it. The van shoe print, which is number 7. Ann Taylor did not say that this van shoe print was not Bryan Kohberger's size. She didn't say that. She also did not say that Bryan Kohberger has never owned a Vans shoe. She didn't say that either. Nope. She tried to keep the Vans shoe print out by saying it was going in a different direction to what Dylan had described seeing the perpetrator had gone in, and the judge said no. He said no, he was not going to suppress the Vans shoe print. It's coming in, and the jury will get to decide for themselves the significance of the Vans shoe print. Number 8, Bryan Kohberger owned a balaclava mask I don't know why that word throws me, but it just always does. He owned a ski mask. I didn't see that listed either. So where's the ski mask? Again, in and of itself, not a big deal, but circumstantially, the case is starting to add up. Number 9, Bryan wrote a how-to paper on how not to leave DNA evidence at a crime scene. Again, by itself, he's a criminology major, not a big deal, but you know, you start to add things up, and it could explain whether wasn't DNA left everywhere. And for people who said that law enforcement tried to frame him, this would be, you would have to get the FBI, the Idaho State Police, and the Moscow PD to all agree with all of their investigators, all of the crime scene investigators, to all agree that we're going to frame some guy that no one's ever heard of, that doesn't even live in Moscow, that lives in Pullman, that doesn't attend the university with Maddie, Kaylee, Ethan, and Xana. We're going to just frame this other guy, and we're not even going to put the DNA all over the knife sheath or around the crime scene to make it look good. We're just going to only put it on the inside snap of that knife sheath. And that knife sheath was known to have a snapping issue. If you go through the reviews, it's known to have, that snap is known to stick. Maybe they fixed it now, but it's been known to stick. So I can see how that little bit of DNA got left. But number 10, BK was following Maddie and Kaylee on Instagram. He was following them. And now we know about the Tinder warrants too. Was he following them there as well? We know about the Snapchat and Snap Map. 11, Dylan described a man who was 6 feet tall or taller. This matches BK's description. Dylan described a man dressed all in black who was athletic and not muscular. This also describes the physique of Bryan Kohberger. Dylan also described a man with bushy eyebrows. And after looking at this selfie of Bryan Kohberger, to me, I don't know what you guys think. I think those eyebrows look bushy. If I were, I'm a female, so maybe to a male, they don't look as bushy, but to a female, I'm looking at my eyebrows, and I have fairly thick eyebrows. I wouldn't call them bushy eyebrows, but they're thick. They're not like, Pamela Anderson thin or anything like that. And so I think to a female, 19 years old, that she's going to view these eyebrows as bushy. I think they'll be trimmed for the trial, but the prosecution is going to be entering this picture into evidence. So I think he fits the Dylan's description. 12, and we don't even know what Bethany's going to say who she described, but I do know that what she did see a man taking off. I believe it's going to be a mechanic suit, some type of coverall, and dropping it into a bag. And you don't have to take my word for it. Go watch the last hearing, and you can hear the judge deny Ann Taylor's motion to suppress Bethany's testimony, and also say that she's going to testify to seeing somebody drop something into the bag. The judge says it. You can watch it for yourselves. You don't have to take my word for it. Number 12, Bryan Kohberger changed the tag on his car just 5 days after the crime. I believe this is why he would have felt comfortable driving his own car to the crime scene. He knew he was changing the tags. Again, each thing by itself can be explained away, but it's starting to stack up. It's starting to stack up, that circumstantial case, piece by piece, brick by brick. It's starting to stack up. Now, we haven't heard from Cy Ray yet, so maybe he's going to say something or give us some information that's going to blow a big giant hole right into the prosecution case. We'll have to see. Number 13, BK's phone pinged at the crime scene location. We first were told 11 times. Now we saw a motion that it was 23 times. And we know one of those times was at 9 a.m. that morning. This shows he was very interested in the 1122 King Road house and the people who were living there. So investigators are probing the digital footprint of Bryan Kohberger according to court documents. Let's go through this. Let me grab it. Oh, man. Okay. I cannot use New York Post anymore. They're not letting me use it, but that's all right. Let me show this next. Okay, I have shown multiple proof from Shadow Dragon to news articles that BK did have connections, and I still have people come into my comment section to tell me that the prosecution has said this. The prosecution has never claimed there was no connections. They're going to show this. They're going to show, in my opinion, they're going to show that he was following the victims on Instagram. They may be able to show he is linked to them through Tinder also. They may be, I don't know about that yet, but here we go. This is People Magazine, but they're not the only ones who sourced this. This was put out by the New York Post, who I had also pulled up. So in late October, an account that authorities believe, this isn't me believing it, it's not People Magazine believing it, it's the authorities, that's law enforcement, that BK sent a greeting to one of the female victims. The source says why he didn't get a reply. He sent several, when he didn't get a reply, he sent several more messages to her. Quote, he slid into one of the girls' DMs several times, but she didn't respond. The source told People. Basically, it was like him saying, hey, how are you? But he did it again and again. According to the probable cause affidavit, one of the surviving roommates said that she saw the perpetrator, and we just talked about that. The affidavit also says that Bryan Kohberger was linked to the crime scene from DNA and cell phone ping. So those are more links to the victims. We don't know what the motive is, but I suspect that it's going to be that BK's now deleted Instagram account. And I showed you, if you didn't want to take the media's word for it, I showed you Shadow Dragon's research on this as well. But they said that in BK's now deleted Instagram, which was viewed by people before it was removed, followed the accounts of Maddie, Kaylee, and Xana, but there was no public interaction. So he was DMing them, but there was no response. Unclear why BK didn't get a response to his messages, but authorities say that the victim may have missed them completely. I agree with that. I don't normally check my DMs either. So I understand that. She may have not seen them because they went to message requests, said the investigative source. Instagram, remember, there's a Meta account warrant. And who owns Instagram? Meta does. Who owns Facebook? Meta does. So this Meta warrant is going to be for the Instagram account. Instagram users are not notified when they receive a message from someone they do not follow back, and the messages go into a special folder. Quote, we're still trying to determine how aware the victims were of his existence. And in my opinion, I don't think, other than maybe waiting on him at the Mad Greek once or twice, maybe seeing him at, around a little bit, I don't think they would have been able to tell you his name. I don't think they, knew him. There's no indication that he was getting frustrated with her lack of response, the source adds, but he was definitely persistent. He was definitely persistent. And what I think this started with, this is just my opinion, so speculation warning, but I think he started, being infatuated. And that turned to hate when it wasn't reciprocated. The prosecution doesn't have to give a motive, but juries do like to know why. I'm going to check in with chat in just a second. Let me scroll back up. Okay, so let's talk about this. All right, let me share this. Okay, so investigators probe Bryan Kohberger's social media accounts in connection with the Idaho crimes. I'm watching my words here. My source on this is Yahoo News. So they're probing the digital footprint of Bryan Kohberger. The documents include search warrants. I just wanted to show you receipts from some of Kohberger's internet activities and additional phone records. And we now know he had two cell phones. One was for his WSU office and the other was his personal. They searched BK's internet activity and some additional phone records, as well as some of the 4 victims' social media accounts. So there's a Reddit warrant also for Kaylee and also for Bryan Kohberger. Now, I think the Bryan Kohberger could be related to Inside Looking. I don't know. But, quote, there is probable cause to believe that those records could yield evidence regarding the crimes, I'm watching my words, of Kaylee, Xana, Ethan, and Maddie. Though they do not reveal details of what the warrants obtained, the records indicate that prosecutors have launched an expansive examination of Kohberger's activities online as they probe the suspect's possible connections to the victims and the crimes he's now accused of committing. So we have AT&T warrants, we have Reddit, we have Tinder warrants, we have Google warrants, we have his email accounts that they pulled stuff for. We have Snapchat, which has Snap Map warrants. We have the Strava warrant. I mean, there's a lot here. And we have the Meta, which is the Instagram warrant. Meta is the parent company of Instagram. The case has only just begun once you made an arrest. This is an ABC News contributor and retired chief detective of the New York City Police Department named Robert Boyce. He said, you want to see what he was looking up. You want to know what he was saying, whether under his or an assumed name on these platforms. And I showed you guys the Shadow Dragon done by Mr. Clemens on the research that he did. They want to establish his state of mind, who he talks to and what he talks about. There could be probative materials there. The Latah County Prosecutor's Office leading Bryan Kohberger's the case against Bryan Kohberger did not reply to requests from ABC News. Okay, so I just wanted to show that they were like going through his stuff. Let me grab this. This is ABC News. And this just again talks about the prosecutors having launched an expansive examination of BK's activities online once they probe the suspect's possible connections to the victims and the crimes he's accused of committing. The case has only just begun, and this is the same thing, but this is the sourcing on this, which is ABC News right here, ABC. So you guys can pull that up if you want to look at it. You are most welcome to do that. And we're going to be talking, let me pull this up. And then we're going to talk about Bethany and Dylan, and then we're also going to talk about geofencing in just a moment. So please stay with me. Let me check in with chat. Yeah, please leave your DNA. I like that, Sherry, on the. And please like, share, and subscribe. It is free. Thanks, Enjaz. Punjab is here. All right, let's see where we are. I know I'm behind on chat. Oh, and before I do that, let me just say thank you to our producers. Thank you, Enjaz, Sasha Angel, George Brown, and Pepper. Thank you to our channel members. I just want to say thank you so much. To our channel members for letting me cover this case. We're not done. I'm not done. I'm not nearly done. But I did want to say thank you for allowing me to cover this case. I really do appreciate you guys. And I know I had some of this covered up. I just want to make sure I've shown everybody's name. If you want your name to appear just like this, just hit the join button. It's next to the subscribe button. It's just a few dollars. I think it's $2 or $3. So thank you to all our channel members. I know I had it covered up by a comment, so I just wanted to make sure everybody saw all the names. And just did want to say a great big thank you to you guys. Okay, so, and I also want to do super thanks, gratitude, and coffee gratitude for our last live stream. Thank you, Brother Mike, Green Eye Sparkle, Kami, 12 Gauge Investigates. Thank you, Enjaz and Rebecca Bruce, for your gifted channel memberships. And Annette Sheehan, thank you so much. And 12 Gauge Investigative. Okay, so let's check in with chat. See where we're at. Benny says, why do people keep denying the social media connection? I don't know. I don't know. Like, I think there's a small percentage of people. It is a small that no matter what we show them, no matter even what any of them doing it would still think that, you know, he didn't do it. And that's fine. You know, he's, of course. So that's okay. I want to welcome Patricia for becoming a brand new Reporter Room channel member. Welcome to the family. I'm so glad to have you here. And thank you, Enja, so much. Thank you for your brilliant work. That's so nice of you, Enja. Thank you for the 10 pounds. Thank you so, so much. And I do have my computer picked out, so I'm ready to. It finally went on sale. Hi, Jeff. Glad to see you. Isle of You says major mistake was not to request Zillow's list of IP addresses that landed on the 1122 Realty page in the weeks before the crime. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that. That would have been good. Penny says, love your channel. The script is awesome. Listening while hanging curtains. Oh, I hope your curtains come out great. Black Hawk said, I lost my knife and knife sheath while I was out hiking. Lots of people hike that trail. So after I noticed it was gone, I went searching on Amazon to find another one. Is that a crime? No, but was your DNA found under the knife sheath that was found underneath into the side of Maddie? Is a car that looks just like yours without a front plate seen circling the house on video camera? Is it seen going to and speeding away from the crime scene? No. Again, one of these things by itself can be explained away, but what's happening is as it's going to be multiple things. The jury's not going to just, I mean, you could just say, yeah, I have a balaclava mask. So what? I agree. So what? But you start stacking everything up together and that's what the prosecution's case is going to be. Now, does that mean the defense can't come in and punch a great big hole in it? We'll have to see. I mean, they're trying to keep the evidence out. I mean, I had people in here swearing to me that there was no evidence in this case a few months ago. I had people in my comment section last year telling me there was no evidence, none. And we're still just seeing some of it. We're not seeing all of it. So Betsy said there was a major slip up. He ordered it, but wasn't delivered yet. I don't think so. Jeff said, any chance Ann's withheld anything from Cyree causing him to reach conclusions he has? I don't know. I haven't seen anything that would support that. I haven't seen the prosecution say anything like that. And Jess has no idea what he said, but I doubt he said that. Chris said, I'm so sorry you had I'm sorry too, Kate. Betsy says, it's only a crime if your DNA puts you at the scene. I agree. Long Island Hillbilly says, my theory is only fundamentally dishonest people think Bryan Kohberger is innocent. Well, I mean, I think it's okay to give him the presumption of innocence until proven guilty. And so I think and I'm not taking anything away from your opinion. I definitely, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I just want people to feel comfortable to share why they feel. But just saying, well, I used to have a balaclava mask, so I guess I'm guilty, is kind of, I mean, he's not sitting in jail for 2.5 years just because of those things. It's his car on the CCTV camera. There's going to be something definitive on that footage, which is why Ann Taylor is saying she doesn't have time to go through it. And there's something on that footage that is going to clearly identify that it is Bryan Kohberger behind the wheel. And the reason I believe this is because they also got the footage from his visit down to Clarkston later that day. And he went to Costco and he went to Albertsons, and there's that Snake River that's running right there. I think that would have been a good place to get rid of that knife. And I think, or maybe the Naz Pierce Reservation, which is thousands and thousands of acres with the Clearwater River running there. But I think they pulled that CCTV footage of him because they want to show that it's his car and that's him driving it in the daylight. That's him getting out of it. That's him in the store shopping. And that's him coming out of the store and getting back in that car. I think it's going to come back to it being that Hyundai Elantra. Didn't even address the 7-day period. Sassy T says, if he didn't leave that dang sheath, would they have caught him? I don't know. I mean, that really did. I don't know. I think they still would have had the Hyundai Elantra on CCTV cameras with him coming to and going from the crime scene. They would have had it circling the crime scene, but it would have been a lot harder. That knife sheath, DNA, juries love DNA. And then Maddie's fingernail clippings. This does not exonerate Bryan Kohberger. If this helped Bryan Kohberger, Ann Taylor would be wanting that to come in. Instead, she filed a motion to suppress that evidence. She does not want the jury to see what the DNA likelihood ratio is under Maddie's fingernails. I believe that Maddie and Kaylee fought back, and this is how he lost the knife sheath, in my opinion. And I believe that it's the likelihood ratio is not good for Bryan Kohberger. If it was good for Bryan Kohberger, Ann Taylor would not be filing motions to suppress Maddie's DNA evidence that was found under Maddie's fingernails. I feel like some people have like almost forgotten who the victims are in this, and that there's some kind of like weird celebrity status that some of these guys get to with these cases. And it's just really heartbreaking because, you know, I just feel like, let me see if I can find, there's Maddie. I just feel like, you know, Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan are no longer here. They don't get to graduate. They haven't gotten to even sit in jail for 2.5 years. They're gone forever. And I just like, their families didn't get to wish them a happy birthday this year. They didn't get to wish them. They didn't get to wish anything. They didn't get to wish anything. They didn't get to say Merry Christmas. They're gone. But I think there's a small percentage of people that no matter what this trial shows, they're still going to be convinced that there were tunnels under the 1122 King Road house, even though the house has been knocked down. And surprise, there's no tunnels. They're still going to believe that there was tunnels and somebody crawled under the tunnels and that law enforcement set him up. And, you know, I know the conspiracy theories. I'm aware of them. I'm just not going to peddle them on my channel. This is a journalistic channel, and I'm bringing you some speculation, some theories, but I'm basing them on information that we know about. So I'm just, you know, if you guys want credible information, if you guys want all the information so you can make up your own mind, then you're in the right place. But yeah, I do think that knife sheath is a problem. Juries love DNA. I think the DNA under Maddie's fingernails is a problem. I think that the ID that was found inside a glove, inside the box at his parents' Albrightsville, Pennsylvania home, which we don't know who that matches to, I think that's going to be a problem. I think that the cell phone tower pings are a problem. The fact that there's not just 11 now, we're up to 23. That's a problem. Why was he so interested in that house? And then the fact that his alibi, Ann Taylor had to put him in the car, in my opinion. She had to put him in the car, but she has him out stargazing and mood gazing on a foggy night. There was ice fog and low-lying clouds that night. You couldn't see anything. And people said, oh, but the weather would be different in Pullman. No, Pullman was just 10 or 15 minutes away. The weather's the same. Jet Set says, anything is possible with Ann Taylor. She is extremely sketchy, in my opinion, and cares nothing about justice and only winning. Kate says, Chris, thank you for saying that. I'm sorry you have a brain bleed. I would love prayers and will return them for you. God bless you, Kate. God bless you both. Mike says, I have 10 a day in my IG. At hidden requests, I just delete them. Talking about DMs. Yeah, I don't even look at them. Betsy Ross said he lost his knife all right on purpose. Why would he lose his knife on purpose? Do you think he threw it away? That's what I think you're saying. Yeah, I think I understand you now. Sorry about that, Betsy. I was like trying to follow it. Benny says these people saw and heard a lot and never called the police. They did. I mean, we don't know what they saw, but they did. They didn't call the police. They were drunk. Dylan had over 10 drinks that night. They were drunkety drunk, drunk, drunk. But Travis Alexander's roommates didn't call the police either. I mean, they did ultimately call it the next morning, but Travis lay on that bathroom floor for days, not hours, days. Elizabeth Smart got taken out of her bed and her sister was in the room with her. And her sister didn't say anything for hours either. She didn't have anything to do with it. People process things differently. I don't think, we'll have to wait and see. But I just think it's sad that we're not going to at least give the roommates that they've been stuck under this gag order that was put in place by who? By Ann Taylor and the defense team to protect Bryan Kohberger's right to a fair trial. So she puts the gag order in place, and now there's this gap where people can attribute anything to the roommates. And I looked into it also early on. It's just I moved on from that because I didn't find any, there was no there. It was a nothing burger. Mike said he was allegedly following one since July and began messaging weeks before November 13th. Wicked said, thanks for reminding today. Do you think BK was Kaylee's stalker? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think that maybe, but I don't know. She had told her dad somebody was following her. And remember, Xana had her locks changed to her bedroom door. And I told you guys about BK's WSU colleague. Think about this. BK's WSU colleague says, Chris said, I find it interesting that an online post was made that he was hiding out in Pennsylvania before Kohberger and his father arrived there. He was hiding. I don't know what you're talking about. He was, but let me just pull this up. Let me take this down. Okay, so my sourcing on this is the Independent. Somebody said yesterday, why do you use this source or why do you use that source? I use lots of sources. I use all kinds of different sourcing. If you go through my playlist and you're familiar with my channel, I use lots of different sources, including court documents. So Bryan Kohberger, my sourcing on this one is the Independent. Okay. Oh my gosh. That's not going to be happy till I Okay. Let's see. It says he broke into a female student's home and spied on her months before the crimes. So we used to think that peeping toms were harmless. That's what we thought. And what we've learned is that no, they escalate. It's not harmless. But BK is believed to have broken into a home of a female student and then installed security cameras to spy on her in the months before he did away with Ethan, Kaylee, Maddie, and Xana. He tended and befriended the woman after he moved to Pullman, Washington, to begin a graduate program, that's his PhD in criminal justice at Washington State University, according to a source. One day, the woman returned to her apartment and found that someone had broken in and had moved items around, but that nothing was missing. And this makes me wonder if that's why Xana changed the locks on her door. She had her dad come and do it. So he moved things around, but nothing was missing. Since nothing was taken, she decided not to call the police, but instead called her new friend, Mr. Kohberger, and asked him to come over. Mr. Kohberger allegedly offered to install a video security system inside her home, and she agreed. So he's putting cameras inside her house. Following its installation, investigators believe that Mr. Kohberger used security cameras to spy on the woman. Knowing her Wi-Fi password, he was able to tap into cameras when within a close proximity to the apartment. So this was sourcing on this is Dateline, NBC, and the News Nation also reported this out. But my sourcing on this is The Independent. So that's like pretty master planned stuff to tend to befriend somebody, stage a break-in, manipulate them into allowing you to install cameras, and then using those cameras to spy on her while she's inside, just doing whatever she does, getting dressed, getting changed, taking a bath, washing herself. It's really creepy. Criminal profiler Greg Cooper told Dateline that the incident was a, quote, step in progression, end quote, for Mr. Kohberger to move from breaking into a home when no one was in to allegedly breaking in when multiple people were at home at the King Road house at the on November 13th. I'm watching my words of 2022. I would expect that he orchestrated the whole thing. So he broke into her house when she wasn't there, tended and befriended her, told her he would offer to install security cameras, got her Wi-Fi password, installed the cameras, and then used them to spy on her. That's like some next level masterminding. But he orchestrated it so she would come to him and he would be able to help her. It's another level of power and domination and control over another person. And I think that's what these crimes are about. If you've watched Mindhunter and you've seen where they've, interviewed people who have done mass Ks or SKs, that it is about power and domination. He said, quote, the hero image he can portray, you've got this problem, I'm here to solve the problem for you and to make it better. And think about what Dylan heard. She thought she heard someone say, it's okay, I'm here to help you. And we know what happened to Xana and Ethan. In the Dateline episode, sources revealed that Mr. Kohberger's sister was growing suspicious. And remember, the prosecution, Ann Taylor, wanted the family of Bryan Kohberger to be able to sit in on the trial with the same rights as the victims' families. And the prosecution said, no, we're calling some of them as witnesses. They can't all just sit in on the trial. So we're going to find out more about that during the hearing that's coming up on Wednesday as well. So if you have not subscribed and hit the notification bell, please do come and hang out with us in the top chat. We're going to be watching the hearing together as a reporter room community. They revealed that Mr. Kohberger's sister was growing suspicious that her brother may have been responsible for the crimes, I'm watching my words here, when the family gathered to spend the holidays together. In mid-December, Mr. Kohberger left his student rental home in Pullman, Washington, without a shower curtain. I had people telling me that there wasn't ever a shower curtain. A lot of people didn't use a shower curtain. And if you look,
and they don't,
you can see in the corner, right, if you're looking at the screen, it'll be to your right. You can see that shower curtain, or at least a liner there. So he was using a shower curtain. So he left his rental home, and again, who packs a shower curtain to go home for a family visit? Nobody does. He took the shower curtain down, in my opinion, because there was potential DNA evidence on it. During his time at home, his family members noticed he was behaving somewhat bizarrely. The source said that Mr. Kohberger was constantly wearing latex gloves, including inside their own home. And law enforcement has him at Albertsons and Costco also wearing these latex gloves. So, but why would you be wearing? I could see maybe out. Maybe you're germophobic, but why inside your parents' house? One of his two older sisters began to wonder if he could play a part in the crimes, and at one point, she raised her concerns with her other family members. She loudly pointed out that at the time of the crimes, she used the M word, her brother was living just a few miles away from the crime scene and that he drove a white Hyundai Elantra, the make and color of the vehicle at the center of the investigation. Along with the bizarre tendency to wear latex gloves at all times, she believed that the family should consider that Mr. Kohberger might have done away with the 4 victims, according to the source. Now, Michael Kohberger, that's Bryan Kohberger's dad, defended BK and insisted he could not have been involved. But her suspicions were so great that at one point, several family members searched Mr. Kohberger's white Hyundai Elantra for possible evidence, according to the source. By that point, police said that Mr. Kohberger had already been spotted cleaning out his car with bleach. So they had him under surveillance for a time period. We know that they first identified him on December 19th. because of the prosecution response to the motion that of Ann Taylor wanting to suppress BK's AT&T mobile cell phone records. She doesn't want the jury to see that either. Can't wait to find out why. But he had been spotting cleaning his car. Law enforcement also said that they had watched him cleaning his car with bleach. And incidentally, if you go back to the affidavit that looks at what they found with the search warrant, the list, it says buccal cheek swabs. He had DNA kit on him. DNA kits. Why was he testing his own DNA? Is it because somebody left their knife sheath? Was he checking for DNA? I mean, I don't know. It's not really clear if Mr. Kohberger was aware of his family members' suspicions that he could have been behind the crimes, or what potential prior behaviors may have led his own sister to suspect him carrying out such a brutal crime. And then we know that law enforcement swooped in to his family home and arrested him for the doing away with Ethan, Kaylee, Maddie, and Xana. At the time of his arrest, Mr. Kohberger was wide awake, standing in the kitchen wearing latex gloves and putting his personal trash in plastic bags. So he's separating out his trash from his parents' trash. And then he's taking the plastic bags and he's walking them down. And you guys have seen how that house is laid out. The trash cans, it's not like a small little townhouse where the trash cans are right by each other. Or it's, the house is probably sitting on a half acre, maybe an acre of property. It's a walk to go down to your neighbor's trash bin. But he was arrested ultimately in his own bedroom. We know that now. So he, when they came in, but they were watching him through probably their rifle scopes, right? They're watching him in the kitchen, separating out his trash in little plastic bags to take out to a neighbor's trash can. According to the attorney for Mr. Kohberger's family, declined to comment on the revelations to Dateline. So they didn't deny it. They just declined to comment. And there's Ethan and Xana. They should still be here. And then we have, what did they find? We know that there were reddish brown stains from an uncased pillow. We don't know who this belonged to. And then the animal hair strands, which I talked about in the last live stream. I got lots of questions. What's your sourcing on that? I'm like, law enforcement. When they did the search warrant, the documents that were put out said that there was animal hair strands. And again, if those go back to Murphy the dog, who was Kaylee's dog, there was some confusion about that too. Kaylee's dog is Murphy the dog. The dog I was talking about belonged to the Colberts, who lived just a little ways away from the 1122 King Road house. That dog was taken out of his own backyard, a fenced yard. So they found animal hair strands. If that matches back to either one of those dogs, I think it's a problem. Especially, they took a disposable glove and a computer. And the fixed blade knife has still never been found. I never saw a balaclava mask on that list either. So I just think it's, it's interesting. Let me just put up this nice picture of Kaylee and Maddie. I make it bigger? Yes. Okay. All right. Let me check in with chat, and then we're going to talk about the roommates. Las Vegas girl said, and there were 23 instances between July 9th of 2022 and October 7th of 2022 that BK phone was in near the 1122 King Road house between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. That day is the day of the party. And yeah, they had a party the night before, right? They were done with. That's why the house was a little bit of a mess. Jody says justice for the Idaho 4. Yeah, and if Dylan and Bethany had come out of their rooms, if Dylan had actually confronted him the way that may have happened with, I don't know if Xana was just bringing out her DoorDash bag to the kitchen counter. We know somehow that DoorDash bag ended up on the kitchen counter near the sink. So I don't know if if she was the one that called out there's someone here. That's who I think, although Dylan thought it was Kaylee that called it out. It could have been. But that bag came out there, but I believe that that's why Xana and Ethan were done away with. If Dylan had come out of that room while he was there, we could have been the Idaho 5. If Bethany had come upstairs, it could have been the Idaho 6. So I'm glad they survived. And I feel, I just feel like Ethan was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Maiden Art says, hello, can you please let us know if you know anything about 3 different prime male blood DNA that was found at the crime scene? Doc shows BK touch DNA was found after second testing. I did talk about the unknown DNA. I'm sure there's lots of unknown DNA at that house. There was a party. The November 12th to November 13th, that was the overnight. But on November 11th, that night, there was a party at the house. It was a party house. I'm sure there was lots of unknown DNA. But what I did address in one of my most recent live streams was in the last one was the unknown male B DNA, and I talked about that in the last live stream. So I'm not going to rehash it again here. But the glove that was found outside the house was found 2 weeks after the crimes were committed. I don't think that glove is going to mean anything, but I do think that the blood evidence on the banister between the first floor and the second floor could be something that Ann Taylor could use, and we'll have to find out, more about it. My understanding from them, we know it was male DNA, and beyond that, that's all we know. So, but I don't know what you're talking about when you're saying 3 different prime male blood DNA. I haven't heard anything about that. I heard about a glove, and I heard about one with blood on the banister. And I already addressed that on the last live stream. So please feel free to go through that. I'm not going to rehash it here, just for the sake of the people that do come back every week. I just do want to try to bring you. There's just a lot of other new information. Rodney says BK didn't take the highway to Moscow. He took the back roads, Sand Road. Specifically, I know those roads. I've driven them myself many times. Very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Mike says, Benny, one heard and saw the person leaving. They didn't know that until during the 911 call. I agree. I mean, hearing the 911 call, to me, that definitely didn't sound like they knew. I've heard people say that they filmed it. There was a pay-per-view event. There's tunnels under the house. I mean, I've heard all the conspiracies. But I don't think just listening to the 911 call, I don't know what a jury's going to think. I don't think the jury's going to look at that. And these young girls, I had heard they'd been interviewed 3 times. We found out from one of the motions that they had been, interviewed 5 times. These weren't nice interviews. These girls were interrogated because law enforcement was working from the inside out. So of course they're going to start with who was in the house. And then they're going to go to who was the family members and friends of those people that were in the house. And they're just going to keep working out that way. So why would you if you wanted to frame somebody, wouldn't the DoorDash driver be an easier person to frame? And again, people have tried to say the DoorDash driver did it, but the DoorDash driver has already been identified by law enforcement and has been ruled out. Jeremy says, I don't think the girls knew about BK, or they would have mentioned it to a bunch of their friends, and their friends would have mentioned it to law enforcement. I agree with your assessment on that. Thank you so much, AZ, for the $5 super sticker. AZ says, for the record, the quote is not, I'm here to help you. The quote is, I'm going to help you. Check the PCA. Thanks for that. Let's see. Jeff said, did BK ask in his research question survey, how did you pick your victims? Wonder if he got into a conversation with somebody about that and they advised him never have connections to the victims. I don't know. I think there are connections. I do think there are connections to the victims. He was messaging them on social media. None of them acknowledged him, although he repeatedly commented to their account. That is my understanding as well. Mike says, I don't think he was following this pursuing since July. He would snap as he was not responding. Something is missing, or he wanted her to know who her attacker was going to be. Yeah, I don't think the victims even knew he existed. That's my opinion. They may have maybe seen him around. Like if you ever waited tables or worked in a job that was had a lot of people, you might remember somebody, you might not. They might have seen him at the Mad Greek, might not. but I don't think they would have been able to tell you his name, which is why prosecution said he was not stalking the victims. This doesn't mean he wasn't surveilling them. It just means that the statute in Idaho for stalking means that the victims have to feel threatened or in danger. And I don't think these victims knew that, who he was. Lori said, who responded to his thumbs up selfie? I don't think anybody did. I think it was his selfie. He took it for himself. It was his trophy. It was
cause affidavit.
It's not being introduced for this, but since you asked, I think it was for himself. He took it and he was proud of himself. And I did it. But the shoe print was not a size 7, and BK does wear a size 13, but it was not a size 7. If you have a source that says that, please direct me to it, because I have not found any source that told me what size that shoe print is. That's correct, size 13. And Ann Taylor did not say that she did not say, Your Honor, the van shoe print should not be admissible in court because it does not match my client's shoe size. She doesn't say that. We don't know what size the van shoe print was yet. Well, guys, I'm heading over to a Sebastian Rogers live stream. If you want to follow me over there, I'm going to be doing that. And then also, please make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. We're going to be watching the hearing together as a true crime community on April the 9th. So it's Eastern time. Right now I have it scheduled for 10:30 Eastern time. That time may change. I'll be keeping a lookout for that. I may move it up to 10. I may, find out they're going a little bit earlier or they're going a little bit later, but I will keep you guys updated on that. So make sure you have your notification bells turned on, and I will see you on the next time. Thank you so much for coming by and spending a little bit of time with me. Please consider subscribing. I can't get to 50,000 subscribers without your help. It's free and it helps me out a lot. See you next